stories from around the world in 6 minutes or less. With that said, start your timer. We begin today in Peru, where leftist politician Roberto Sanchez is seeking to broaden his appeal by moving towards the political center as he prepares for the country's 2026 presidential race. Sanchez, an ally of former President Pedro Castillo, is positioning himself as a unified figure capable of building consensus amid political polarization. From Reuters, quote, consensus building is not weakness, Sanchez said. On the contrary, it is the strength Peru needs to close wounds and generate hope, end quote. Next, we travel across the world to South Africa, where 1,000 Nigerians living in the country have requested help to return home following recent xenophobic attacks. Nigerian based business owners and properties were targeted amid renewed violence, heightening diplomatic tensions between the two African nations. Nigeria's consulate in Johannesburg is working to facilitate the safe return of affected citizens. From Reuters, quote, more than 1,000 Nigerians have registered to return home, Nigeria's consulate in Johannesburg said on Wednesday as diplomatic tensions flared up between the two African powers, end quote. Back across the Atlantic in Texas, ranchers are on alert after a case of screwworm parasites was detected in a young calf. Excuse me, marking the first U.S. case since 2016. The screwworm, a flesh-eating pest, poses a serious threat to livestock and wildlife, prompting rapid response measures by federal and state agencies to prevent an outbreak. Efforts include quarantining affected areas and deploying sterile flies to halt the pest spread. Authorities emphasize the importance of vigilance and early detection to protect the livestock industry. From Reuters, quote, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, along with Texas officials, quarantined the premise, and vegetarians treated the infected calf and other animals to prevent further cases. The agencies are also deploying the flies as a part of a long-standing program designed to stop the pest's spread. The Texas Agricultural Commissioner Sid Miller said ranchers should watch their herds for signs of screwworm and urged anyone noticing symptoms to report them quickly to authorities. End quote. Next, we travel across the Pacific to South Korea, where its ruling People Power Party, led by President Yoon Suk Yeol, achieved a divisive victory in local elections, winning 12 out of 17 key races for the metropolitan mayors and provincial governors, including Seoul and Busan. The opposition Democratic Party secured only 5 posts, indicating significant challenges in regaining regional influence. While the results reflect continued public support for the ruling bloc, analysts note vulnerabilities in urban centers, particularly Seoul, ahead of the 2026 mayoral contest. From Reuters, quote, the People Power Party won 12 out of the 17 key races for the metropolitan mayors and provincial governors. The opposition party secured only 5 posts, as the cycle possibly indicate end quote, as the cycle possibly indicates changes and shifts moving into future elections after the scandal that rocked the democracy only months ago, end quote. And next, we travel south to Australia, where Air Trunks plans to invest billion dollars in India by 2030 to expand its data center operations in the country. The company, backed by Macquarie Asset Management, maybe Macquarie, excuse me for mispronouncing your company's name, aims to capitalize on India's surging demand for data centers and data consumption. From Reuters, quote, India is strategic to our Asia Pacific expansion plans, and we plan to invest the $30 billion in the country. The firm plans to build more data centers to meet surging demand for data storage within India, end quote. And lastly, we end today in Albania, where protesters have voiced strong opposition to luxury resort plans linked to current U.S. President Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, arguing that the project threatens public land and national heritage. From Reuters, quote, protesters carrying signs saying Albania is not for sale and Cezanne is ours blocked Tirana's Central Boulevard and called on the government to scrap plans to grant a 99-year lease for part of a protected area to the businessman tied to Jared Kushner and a son-in-law of the President Donald Trump. Kushner is pursuing the resort project through a partnership with Israeli investor Benny Steismetz, who is facing legal issues in Europe, according to the Albanian protesters. End quote. And if you want to read any of today's articles in their entirety, you can find them linked in the description below that like and subscribe button. Also down there, you can find the podcast on Spotify, Pocket Cast, Podvine, as well as the Twitter handle at Your Daily Flip, where I post links to these episodes whenever they come out. So, with all that said, there's only one more thing to say. Stay safe, don't die.